Hey guys, this is John, and you're watching John's Theories. This is part two of the Donald Trump's 100 Days plan. All right, we left off, it looks like, I think number five. Number five, Donald Trump will lift the restrictions on the production of $500 trillion worth of job producing energy uh, reservoirs. Basically, we're going to start drilling oil here in America, natural gas, coal, etc. Number five, now people might be, against that, and I think it would be the environmentalists, if anybody. They think that it's okay to mess up other people's countries, just not our own. We should use their oil, right, to drive around in our cars, but you know, they should have all the environmental hazards, not us, right? And what's so funny about this is when Democrats are like, "Oh no, we're gonna drill in America." Well, first off, you got to think America has more laws than any other country on the planet. Think about that for a second, and especially more environmental laws. So, if you want to save the planet, do you really want oil being drilled out in the middle of Russia? Right? I mean, they have an oil spill. They're like, whatever, kick some dirt on it, drink some vodka, call it a day, right? But if we spill oil, we have to dig up like 10 square miles to make sure not a drop of it hits the groundwater, right? So, if you're actually thinking about it, environmentalists, you should actually want America to be doing all the oil drilling, natural gas extraction, and clean coal extraction, not some third world country where they just pollute the earth, and they don't care. You should have it all be done here in America, where it's very restricted and very by the book. Anyways, let's go to number six. Number six. Looks like Trump's going to lift the Obama-Clinton roadblocks and allow vital energy infrastructure projects like the Keystone Pipeline to move forward. Um, Good stuff. Good stuff. Again, environmentalists, do you want it done where there's no regulation and they pour shit into the ocean? Or do you want it done in America where we have the most restrictions and it's the absolute safest of any place on Earth? So just think about that for a second. Anyways, let's keep on. We're going to go to number seven. It looks like he's going to cancel billions in payments to the UN climate change programs and use the money to fix America's water and environmental infrastructure. This is a brilliant move on Trump's behalf. Okay, first off, I am not a climate change fan, right? The global warming. The reason for it is because I love science. I love science. And science has taught me over the years. I remember being a kid and learning about ice ages. I remember learning about environments changing. Like, guess what? Mexico used to be a tropical sea, right? There used to be starfish crawling on the Rockies. The world changes and evolves. The weather changes and evolves. To have projections that say sea level is going to rise 20 feet, I bet it will. It's called the end of an ice age. And then guess what? We're going to go back into another ice age, and then all the sea levels are going to drop. What are we going to do? It's so horrible. The fishing industry is going to collapse. Weather changes, people. Anyways, if you know anything about the Paris Accord, essentially all it is we're going to punish the rich countries for using all this evil CO2, and they're going to have to pay the poor countries money. So I don't think, I don't know about you guys. Again, just a theory. Uh, this doesn't sound like a functional plan. How can paying rich countries paying poor countries, how can that somehow save the environment? It doesn't. But what it does line up with is a collectivist idea of taking money from the rich and giving it to the poor, and everyone's equal. Like, we know that as Marxism, right? Or socialism. Now, to think that the Democrats only want that for America is very, very naive. They want that for the whole world. And that's why we've come up with so many different schemes to take American money and give it to poor countries, right? Now, I'm not saying that charity is a bad thing. I don't think that's the case at all. But I do think it's up to the individual to be charitable, right? It doesn't help my soul if I just have to give my money to the government and then they're charitable with it. That doesn't make me a better person, right? Give me the opportunity. And besides that, man, it's not your place to be taking my money so you can like go off on some quest of changing the world and molding it into your version of utopian society. Anyways, uh, it's a brilliant move in the fact that he's going to go ahead and take climate change money and translate that into real fixes in American waterways in the American environment. Whether that's to say, hey, you know what, the soap factory's pumping toxic sludge into the river. Well, we're going to develop a way so all these companies can have a little exclusive pipeline so none of their stuff goes into the river. I don't know, staying within the environmental section with that money, I think it was a smart move, and I think it was charitable to the Democrats. They'll never give it to them, but I think that's what it was. Anyways, let's keep going. Additionally, on his Trump's first day, on his first day, he will do the next five things to restore security and constitutional rule of law. So first, he's going to cancel all unconstitutional executive actions, memorandums, and orders issued by the president. President Obama specifically. Now, I think this is wonderful, except for why do we have to specify President Obama, right? Did Bush not do any unconstitutional stuff? Did FDR not do any unconstitutional stuff? I mean, come on, man. You need to open that up and say he's going to revoke everything that was unconstitutional that has anything to do with the executive branch. Personally, that's my issue. And that's my complaint most of the time with Trump is I just don't think he goes far enough. Anyways, let's go to number 2 here. Number 2, Trump is going to begin the process of selecting a replacement for Justice Scalia. If you guys continue to watch this show, we're going to talk about the Supreme Court. And I'll tell you what, I don't like those mofros one bit. And the reason for it is because about 50 years into the formation of our country, they self-appointed themselves. They said, hey, you know what? I just ruled that this court is the only entity in all of America that has the final say on what the Constitution really means. Okay, the Constitution was made to limit government. And the Supreme Court has somehow, mind you, the judicial branch of our federal government is determining what the Constitution really limits them on. That's absurd, man. That's crazy. And that's how we ended up with Supreme Court rulings like black people aren't human, or I don't know, we should force sterilize retarded people. Like, this is unacceptable. And in no way should they be making calls like this. Personally, I think we should pull a Poland and strip the Supreme Court of their unconstitutional and thereby illegal rights to be the final adjudicator of what the Constitution really says. No, guess what? We should elect a president based on how he interprets the Constitution, and we should elect Congress people based on how they interpret the Constitution. And I think we should be electing our judicial branch as well, right? Shouldn't be owned by the executive, but we should elect people there to make sure that, based on their interpretation of the Constitution. And then guess what? They all battle and they say, no, I was elected on the platform of, guess what? The Second Amendment says no, the right to keep and bear arms can't be infringed. Well, guess what? That means you can't make any laws that has anything to do with weapons. And that's the people spoke when they elected me on that platform. So, that's the battle that's supposed to occur, not some, oligarchy of 9 old fogies sitting on a bench, right? Like, that's absolutely absurd. Anyways, so he's going to get the Scalia in, and for the rhinos, they're going to say, oh, well, yay, we get the Supreme Court. I personally think the Supreme Court and its ruling on the Constitution is completely illegal anyways, so I'm not too happy about that one, but, it's better than nothing. Anyways, so let's go to number 3, cancel all federal funding to sanctuary cities. Again, Trump's not going far enough, man. We need to cancel all federal funding to all cities and ... all states. If my federal government has enough money to buy influence from the state government, they have too much money. And besides the fact that it's absolutely corrupt. Are you kidding me? My federal government buys influence from my state government. That is not how this country is supposed to run. And if it is, I want to change it. That is not the America I want to live in, right? I want my state government to be just as sovereign as my federal government. They should be going around trying to buy people's influence. It's ridiculous. Fourth, begin removing the more than 2 million criminal illegals from America. Well, so the question is, anyone here illegally is a criminal, right? So is he talking about all the illegals, or is he just talking about the illegals with a criminal record outside of actually just, illegally coming into our country? Watch the news. He goes back and forth. There's some political tap dancing going on there. Fifth, he's going to suspend immigration from terrorist prone regions. This is the Muslim thing, right? So basically, if Syria's got a whole bunch of terrorists, you can't come to America. Sorry. Um, Guys, look, whether you believe that Islam is the religion of peace, which is basically, yeah, by the way, a slogan that was made up in the 19th century to basically allow Islam to creep back into the first world after we slaughtered them. Um, yeah, if you believe that, or if you believe that they're the spawn of Satan, either way, I encourage you to read the Quran and to read the Sunnah. And I'm not talking about Googling here. I'm saying, like, get on your app store and type in free English Quran, right? There's going to be like 10 apps. And you can literally just read the Quran word for word, okay? And then you could go to sunnah.com and read the entire Sunnah. It's the Hadiths. It's the saying of Muhammad. And these two texts are very, very, I mean, they are the building blocks of Islam. Now, they have other books, like they read the Old Testament, for example, but these are the key books and the key ministries, the key ideologies being taught in Islam are in these two books. And if you read them, you'll find out that it is much more complicated than to just say, oh, no, they're peaceful. Anyways, you know what? I'll do a show on Islam. But for right now, number five is a pretty good idea. Anyways, let's move forward. We're going to go into what Trump plans on introducing to Congress in the next 100 days, or rather his first 100 days. The first one is the Middle Class Tax Relief and Simplification Act. Basically, what he's going to do is cut taxes all over the place, simplify the tax code, and that's fantastic, right? Again, like we talked about before, if the federal government has enough money to buy influence from the state, they have too much money in general, right? So good on them. I hope tax collection gets reduced by $1 trillion. Because you know what? Our government shouldn't be spending this type of money. Yeah, this is my money. It's your money. And it shouldn't be used to buy our state governments. Okay? Number two, the end of the Offshore Act. Basically, it establishes tariffs to discourage companies from laying off their workers in order to relocate to another country. So, essentially, what Clinton, he's reversing what Clinton did in the first place, right? Where Clinton said, hey, you guys can be totally tax free if you build your Nikes in China. Well, Trump is saying, no, no, no. Guess what? If you want to build your Nikes in China, you guys are going to not only have to pay normal sales tax, but you're going to have to pay a tariff of like 45% or whatever it is. Now, America is still a huge market, so companies are going to have to weigh it out. And ultimately, it just comes down to the numbers. That's the only thing they care about. Okay, number three, the American Energy and Infrastructure Act. Looks like it leverages public and private partnerships and private instruments through tax incentives to spur on a $1 trillion in infrastructure investment over the next 10 years. So this is a hybrid. He's basically saying, hey, private investors come in and partner with the taxpayers, and let's try to get our infrastructure rebuilt. I don't see why it's necessarily a bad thing. We all know that government is ineffective and inefficient. And, if they have to pave a road, it's going to cost $10 million. And if a private company does it for a private buyer, it's going to cost $1 million. So I don't see how this is going to be a bad thing. I guess you could question whether or not private companies could somehow steal tax money, but we're so bad at managing our money in the first place that I don't think it really matters. Hey, I see I'm running out of time again, guys, so it looks like this is going to be a 3-part series. When we come back, we will start on section 4. Again, if you're watching this, I appreciate it. I'm learning as we go, and again, I appreciate your patience. So hopefully I get better. We'll see. Give me comments in the comments section. Try not to be too mean. Give me constructive